Maura Healey has been Massachusetts Attorney General since 2014. The Democrat is seeking a second term in office where, if elected, she says she'll continue to make stopping the opioid crisis a top priority. As the people's attorney, she says her office has returned $800 million to the taxpayers of Massachusetts. Why run for a second term? Here's what she said.
Well, when I ran 4 years ago for Attorney General, I ran to be the people's lawyer. I ran to be the person who would run a law firm that is about the people of Massachusetts. And I'm proud of our record over the last 4 years. I want to continue that work. I'm proud of the work that we've done on combating the opioid crisis, saving lives, getting Narcan in the hands of first responders, going after the big pharmaceutical companies that brought us to this point, and advocating for more treatment, especially for folks across the state dealing with addiction. I've also launched a first-of-its-kind prevention education program on substance use disorder and healthy decision-making in all of our schools. We've been there enforcing the law out of my office to protect consumers, students and families who've been victimized by predatory for-profit schools. We've stood up for workers and veterans and seniors, and I'm proud that last year alone, my office recovered over $800 million for the taxpayers and residents of Massachusetts. It's important work. Being the people's lawyer, I want to continue to do the work, and I'm here to ask for people's support and their vote on November 6th.
To that point about opioids, recently President Trump signed new opioid legislation. Among other things, it includes about $6 billion to fight the opioid crisis, and he said that he believes that amount of money will help end the crisis. Do you think that amount of money is sufficient to do that?
Well, I think it's certainly important, and I'm glad that President Trump did that. That's exactly the kind of help we need from the federal government, frankly. I'm proud that today my office received a grant of our own of $3 million from the U.S. Department of Justice that we are going to use to support our efforts to get after the trafficking of fentanyl and heroin in our communities. A few years ago, I worked with law enforcement and got $1 million grant from the U.S. Department of Justice. This is a second grant that we've received, an additional $3 million that will fund local police and their efforts to work with our office in getting after the scourge of drug trafficking in our communities. But look, we need to do more. Really, my focus, in addition to drug trafficking enforcement, and we've spent a lot of time on this issue, Carrie, we've taken over the last few years millions and millions, and I said that right, millions and millions of doses of lethal fentanyl and heroin off of the streets. We've prosecuted and arrested hundreds of people for drug trafficking. But we've also been clear, we're not going to arrest our way out of this. We need to provide treatment, long-term treatment for people who are addicted, people who are suffering with substance use disorder, and we need to do a better job generally of providing more access to behavioral health services here and all across the country. I'm also a big proponent, of course, of prevention education, and I've been clear, for the sake of all the families that I've met around this state who've lost loved ones to this crisis.
Including Mr. McMahon, your challenger.
Certainly, yeah, including Mr. McMahon, that I am bringing accountability to the pharmaceutical industry, who needs to be held accountable for creating this crisis in the first place. I want people to understand that, what drove me to sue Purdue Pharma and its executives and board members is the fact that for years they knew what OxyContin was doing to people and yet continued to put profits ahead of people. That's why I've sued, and that's why we're continuing our investigations.
I'm glad you pointed out the lawsuit with Purdue Pharma. We did talk briefly about that with Mr. McMahon, but he kind of pivoted to talk about the settlement with CVS and Walgreens, which is the connection to the student funding I believe you were talking about. But I want to bring up something else. Mr. McMahon has said that you and your office have ignored public corruption in Massachusetts, and especially in relation to the state police overtime scandal. But I saw a story recently from Gindumcius of Mass Live, and he reported that you have, quote, serious concerns about the internal agency report on Colonel James McGinn, the head of the environmental police. What are those concerns?
Well, first off, I take a backseat to no one when it comes to prosecuting public corruption and pursuing cases involving public integrity. I was the first to actually investigate the allegations surrounding Troop E, the troopers on the pike, with the state police. and which has been disbanded by the governor. But what I've done is return 3 indictments against former lieutenants of the state police. Those investigations are ongoing. I've also been involved in other investigations of the department. Look, as I said, I'll take a backseat to no one when it comes to pursuing matters of public corruption, because the public needs to be able to trust that our departments, our agencies, and our government are out there working hard every day for them.
But specifically, what are those concerns that Gindum just pointed to regarding Mr. McGinn?
This is a different issue. This involves the now former colonel of the environmental police. And look, what he did, based on what I've read and reviewed, is wrong. He was right to be fired. This shouldn't have happened. Now, there's been a report prepared by the department there, the Energy and Environmental Affairs Department. My office is going to review that, and we'll take any action we think appropriate. I know the matter has now been referred to the State Ethics Commission, and that's an important thing as well.
I want to have us talk about a couple of Western Massachusetts specific issues. The Berkshire Museum art sale, which your office did get involved in, and ultimately your office agreed to the sale. But leaders who looked at the finances, which was a big part of this case, whether it was the Mass Cultural Council or Stephen Shepard, an economist, an arts economy expert at Williams College, they looked at those finances and said, we think that they are overblowing what they say is a financial crisis. Your office ultimately disagreed. What did you find that Mr. Shepard or the MCC didn't?
You know, this was such a travesty. The fact that this museum got to this point is a real problem. I have a job to do as your Attorney General, which is to enforce laws that govern nonprofits, govern charities. And so we immediately got involved here when the museum first proposed to sell art. I don't want to see art sold, but we had to do an investigation and determine whether or not the trustees breached their fiduciary duty. So we were limited in what we could do under the law. Ultimately, my office was able to negotiate a deal with the museum and the trustees that I think was a good deal, because it resulted in the preservation of certain paintings, and that they would be, particularly the Rockwell paintings, would be made available and shown to the public. And
here in Massachusetts, short term, they will be moved to
eventually, but that museum to be open has yet to be open. So right now, they're continuing to be viewed, and importantly, these were paintings that were not actually available and could not be viewed by the public for many years, because the museum didn't even have the resources to get the insurance to make that possible. I understood and had sympathy for the arguments on both sides of this one, but our office worked hard to get a deal to cap the amount of art that could be sold to support the ongoing operations of the museum. And I certainly have a lot of sympathy for those who were really concerned about the fact that any art was being sold. But ultimately, it wasn't up to me. It was up to a court that approved the final deal and transaction. And I hope that the museum succeeds. I hope that people visit the museum. I mean, I love the Berkshires and I love Western Massachusetts for many reasons, but among them, you think about the wonderful cultural institutions that we have here. We need to keep those strong and keep those thriving.
Something else we asked Mr. McMahon about, so I want to ask you about it as well. According to the Pioneer Institute, it's easier for out-of-state students to actually get accepted to the University of Massachusetts system, our state university system, than it is for in-state students. Do you think that that's discriminatory?
Well, I haven't seen that data. I'll tell you this, though. As Attorney General, nobody has been out there fighting harder for students than my office. Over the last few years, we've done a few things. I set up an entire unit in my office dedicated to the issue of student loans. We have students and families who are just drowning in debt, and so I recognized there was a real need. I set up a division in my office. If you're a student with serious student loan debt, call my office, and we'll try to help you and get you relief. In the past, we've been really aggressive going after for-profit schools like ACI right here, remember, in Springfield, that shut its doors abruptly and left hundreds of students high and dry. We've taken action after action against predatory loan servicers and predatory schools that are raking it in on the backs of vulnerable students.
But a recent
report
report
continue to do that. Last week, also, my office won 2 cases against the U.S. Department of Education to force them to discharge the loans of students who'd been victims of predatory practices. Higher education, to your question, higher education and the cost is a real problem for students and families in this state. Access to higher ed is also a problem because of the cost. And so I also, as Attorney General, worked with the Chamber of Commerce to bring together a working group to come up with some recommendations around financing.
You said students or people who have those student loans should reach out to your office, but a recent report from NPR found that about 99% of people who sought student loan forgiveness who worked in the public sector weren't able to access that, even though they should have.
Which is why my office sued. We're in that particular case, we actually joined together. Some other states came on board with us. It was outrageous. There was a program set up that if you went off to be a teacher, for example, or had other public employment, you were supposed to get your loans forgiven. But the U.S. Department of Ed did a lousy job, hired some vendor to run the program, and so students weren't properly enrolled and didn't get the benefit of that forgiveness program, which is why my office had to take them to court. So we're in litigation on that now, but this is the kind of work that I've been doing as Attorney General that I want to continue to do. Recently, there was an institution, Mount Ida, a college in Massachusetts that closed its doors quickly, and my office worked really hard to get those students into other programs and degree programs. This is work that's important, and we need to continue it.
Again, as we did with Mr. McMahon, want to give you an opportunity here in closing to talk to the people of Massachusetts about why you think that they should vote for you.
Well, I think that they should vote for me based on my record, and that's really what they have to look at when they go to the polls. I'm proud of the work that I've been able to do as Attorney General, the kind of office I've been able to run. We brought actions and had success on behalf of consumers, standing up for workers, standing up for civil rights, making sure that we're enforcing the laws, including suing the President of the United States when he's done things that hurt Massachusetts' interests. I'm going to continue to be an advocate for the people of this state. I'm proud of the fact that we are out there every day fighting hard for fairness, for taxpayers. I'm proud of the money, the many, many millions we've brought back to residents and to the state of Massachusetts. And I hope that with the opportunity to continue for another 4 years, we'll continue to see those results. But it's a wonderful job. I love being the people's lawyer, and I certainly would be grateful for the opportunity to continue to serve.